Hey friends, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Tirso, I'm a creative director based in New York City. In this video, super simple, we are talking about alignment. It's a design principle that cleans up your designs and makes them look more structured. I will cover left alignment, center alignment, right alignment, and justified, which apply to your text. I'll also cover the alignment of objects, and then at the end, I'm adding a section called misalignment, which is a method I use when I design. I'm not sure about the labeling, but we'll see. All right, let's get aligned. There are four main alignments for dealing with text: left alignment, center alignment, right alignment, and justified. Left alignment should be your default. Center alignment's the easiest because all you have to do is center everything and it will always work. This tends to be the default for wedding invitations, or if you work in marketing, I don't make the rules. So if center aligned always works, why don't we always use it? It's not that you can't use it, but when everything in the design is centered, it doesn't really showcase very much. If you've watched other videos on my channel, I'm always stressing that you need to showcase your abilities as a designer, so we want to work towards mastery in our craft. Right alignment isn't commonly used, but it does have purpose if you're anchoring text to an object. Let's design something and see how these work together. Here's our content. Let's start by styling the text. We use contrast in the headline. I'm going to do this in both size and weight. We always kern our type. I tend to like mine pretty tight. The deck can get a little bigger. For the captions, I'm just going to keep everything fairly light, and then the rest of them. I'm going to remove the captions on products so we can anchor our hero image with our title. Let's align our hero image to the grid. We can also do that for our deck. Now we can place our products. To add some scale, I'll make the flat iron really big. I want to overlap one of the products over the hero image. Let's try the scalp oil. I changed my mind. This drunk elephant product is fading into the background because it's white on white, so that should be the product to overlap. The kerastase is too tall to fit in the space below. It'll fit much better here, and then I'll move the drunk elephant to the left. Last but not least, Jonathan Van Ness. I don't love having two products overlap. We can fix this by bleeding the hero image on top. Let's bring the captions back and then adjust to fit. I mentioned earlier that you can use right alignment to anchor your text towards an object. Since the flat iron is to the left of the caption, I'm going to right align it. The deck should be closer to the headline, so I'll bring that up. For some contrast and alignment with the rest of the page, we can center the head and deck. This page could use some colors, so I'll add a touch, and there we go. You can actually swap the position of the kerastase and Dyson captions. If you look at these three products, the caption lives either directly above or below the product. Left aligned works just fine, but you can also center them. Let's adjust. We'll fix the rags and perfectly center the product with the caption. These two products here are too close together, so I'll move them apart. And since our captions became centered, we can go back to left align for our head and deck. Here are the two options: identical layouts, slightly different alignments, but both work. You can decide which one you prefer. Let's do another layout. This time, I'm gonna go with a radial layout. I'm starting with the head, deck, and hero image centered. I'll place the flat iron horizontal this time. Again, we have some overlap. This area peeking here is a little awkward, so I'll crop in. This needs its caption. Let's use the kerastase in the top left. That leaves us with the other two products on the right side. I did the same thing as the last layout where the captions are anchored and aligned to their products. This is layout number 2. I'll do one more. For this, I'll make the hero image much smaller. I want to balance that out with another photo in the bottom left. This time, I'm using a still life image as opposed to the solo. We can now bring in our products and drop in our captions. Because we changed one of the photos, the color contrast isn't strong enough in this bottom left image, so we have to change the color. There's a lot of white space going on. We can alleviate some of that by adding a graphic element. I'm gonna go with numbers like this. Note that I have contrast between the numbers and size, but also the sizes are balanced with each other as well. All right, let's look at the options. They all work. If a designer showed me these layouts, I would be very happy. I do actually have a favorite here, which would be the one with the numbers. I like the movement happening with the photos here. They're placed diagonally, in this case, not Diagon Alley. And the other two products are balanced opposite each other. I have one more thing to go over here. Centered text is usually best when working with circles. If you try to left or right align text, it feels imbalanced since circles are naturally symmetrical. You can put the text inside of the circle if it's a bubble on your layout, or text above and below. We see this often in UI. Here's a screen grab of the Spotify app. You can judge my taste in music if you'd like. Even though the subheads are left aligned, the section of the circles has the caption centered. Those are the basic alignments. Now for justified text. There are 4 versions: left, centered, right, and then full justified. You would normally use these if you want clean edges on both sides of your text. It can get a little crazy because you end up with rivers in your body copy. Here's the layout I did for Women's Wear Daily. You often see justified text in newspapers. So both edges of text are perfectly straight, but it's hard to typeset. There's quite a few widows we're seeing here. Let's zoom into the first paragraph. These are the rivers I was talking about. People are used to this when reading a newspaper, so we kind of have to be okay with it, but it can affect readability. I mean, you could practically drive a car through this one here. On top of that, we have a stacked word here, which further decreases readability. Since I referenced Harry Potter earlier, here's a Daily Prophet. Again, everything is justified, this time full justified. We can see that the bottom line of each text block also goes edge to edge. Center and right justified text exists, but I don't have an example where it would make sense to use them. I've had an entire career without using them, so I imagine you too can have a career without using them. In short, don't use them. Aligning objects in a design refers to an axis. There are only 2 axes. I hate the plural of this word. But there are only 2 to work with in graphic design: your vertical axis and your horizontal axis. When you start a layout, you want to anchor on the page itself. As you add other elements, you want to use those elements to reference for alignment. You can align objects on the left or right edges, the vertical or horizontal centers, and also on top and bottom. Okay, new layout. To save time, I've already styled the text here. We go to a blank page. I'll start with a hero image, fairly large. Drop in our text. I want some contrast with the column width here, and then our images. Let's align a block with the right of the hero image. We can fit 2 images in here and drop those in. Oh, and yes, that's me with Dominique Enzel. For the last alignment, I'm going to align with the top and bottom of the text block. Here we go. Some adjustments. I want some scale with the pie so we can crop in tighter, and then contrast and alignment with the head and deck. Just like we set our type earlier, we need to fix our rag here, and that's option 1. Option 2, I'll start with a more vertical crop of the hero and anchor it to the left of the page. Here is our head and deck. This time I'm going to use right alignment since the rest of the content will be the right to it. Here are the images. Let's do a clean column on the right side. There's some tension in this corner here. It either needs to be fully aligned or not at all. I'll extend the crop a little more vertical. For our body copy, we can fit it nicely in 2 columns in the leftover space. There's a lot of white space in this area down here, and it makes it look like the head and deck are floating. A simple background color can solve this. I chose yellow because the black text in the body copy still reads on top, which allows overlap for some slight dimension. There are so many ways to align your objects. I would recommend that your goal should be to develop a process where you're systematically relating elements to each other. Here we go. I'm positive I'm the only one on the internet promoting this approach to alignment. I'm not sure about the naming, but let's see. Designers develop a signature style in their careers, and this is one of mine. I consider it to be micro-design, which is a nice touch to finalize your products. The goal here is to purposely misalign objects, which technically defeats the purpose of this video, but once you master the rules, you can learn how to break them after. Let's apply this to the previous layout and see how it affects the design. I'll start by bleeding the hero image, which gets rid of the margin edge we had in the original layout. And then to break the alignment of these images, I'll bleed the bottom one. I'll also break the alignment at the bottom simply by cropping up. I love overlap in a layout. I can do that by moving the pie image up, then this image can get bigger. I keep mentioning to reference other elements for alignment. Since the image on the bottom right bleeds, our head shouldn't be centered within the crop. I think it's better if they're centered to the image above it, like this. Last, we can also overlap the middle image so they're all connected. We do have some tension here. We can relieve that by cropping in and creating a small channel. Let's compare what just happened. The one on the left is super clean, the one on the right is a little bit more playful. They're both fine solutions. It would come down to your preference as a designer. However, if I were comparing the two for a portfolio, I would say that the one on the right shows more of an understanding and ability in design. Let's go to the other layout. I'll start by not doing a full box at the bottom. It feels too thick, so we can shorten it. This box no longer has to be yellow because the text doesn't need to read on top of it. I'll change that to a neutral. This feels heavier, so we can shorten it and add more white space around the head and deck. Now to add some overlap, the pie image can get bigger. We can add some white space to the right of our hero image by moving it to the left, and then balance out the channel we just created like this. We still have a fully aligned edge here, so we want to break that by bleeding the bottom image. I don't love that there are 3 images bleeding on 3 different edges, so let's not bleed the pie image. Here is a before and after. Again, neither are wrong, but visually, the one on the right would suggest a more advanced designer. I have one more example to show. This is just some great copy I dropped into an imposter layout. Let's say you want to add a pull quote. The center alignment within the column is a nice contrast to the left alignment of the body copy. We can misalign this by breaking the grid into the column next to it, and then adjust the callout so it aligns to the bottom and top of the split text respectively. So the reason for this is since the top and bottom of the pull quote have straight edges, we want to mimic that with the alignment above and below it. Something like this allows your elements to interact more with each other. You decide if this misalignment approach is right for you. It is very much a stylistic approach. As long as you're using the design principles properly, there are no wrong answers here. So that's my guide to alignment in graphic design. I had more to say about this topic than I thought I would, but I like to be complete with my content. If you notice in all the examples, I have a consistent approach to my design process, always creating contrast, adding white space, and finding opportunities for dimension. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. Check out some other content on the channel, and I'll see you next time.